Shit! Fuck me! Shit! What the fuck? I don't fucking know! Fuck! Stop screaming! Stop!
Welcome to Why It's Great. This is the series where I pay my respect to some of the movies that I feel get too much undeserved hate, and highlight all the aspects of these films that in my opinion are great. Today we'll be tackling Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Now I have to preface this video by saying that The Phantom Menace is my least favorite Star Wars movie. I still love it, just not as much as the others. However, this is actually a perfect opportunity to truly test the integrity of this series of mine, because in these videos I try to only point out the good stuff and leave all the negativity for the end. So I was very interested in seeing how my enjoyment of this movie could change with this new perspective. My philosophy in film is that you can always find positives if you're just willing to look for them, just like how you can always find the negatives if that's what you're looking for. And today we'll be doing the former, because here on the TurfNation channel we're all about positivity. Therefore, in this video I will be highlighting some of the standout moments of this movie and ranking them each as either bronze, silver, or gold moments, and also just talk about some aspects of the movie that I feel need to be talked about. As always, leave your own opinions on this movie down in the comments, I'll be reading all of them. But enough rambling, let's just get into it. This is why The Phantom Menace is great. So let's start off by talking about one of the biggest complaints people have towards this movie, which is the outdated visuals. And listen, I get it. The CGI in this movie doesn't always hold up, not even for the time, because some movies in the late 90s looked a lot better. However, even more movies looked a lot worse. There are some truly downright ugly visuals in this movie, but there are also some pretty well-made sceneries, practical effects, and motion capture. For example, the images we get of Naboo look good, the lightsaber fights look good, even Jar Jar Binks looks good. Just like in real life, you don't judge a person's looks based on a couple bad pimples. No, because a face is so much more than that. And while I don't think this movie provides a visual spectacle like some of the other Star Wars movies do, I do think the CGI in this movie is underrated. All I'm saying is that in some scenes, this movie is beautiful to look at. Now, besides just the visuals, there is another aspect of filmmaking that helps to immerse us in the story, and that's good world building. And as we all know, Star Wars is known for creating rich and diverse worlds, and The Phantom Menace is no exception. We get introduced to some cool and interesting planets like Naboo and Coruscant, which also provide different situations and settings within the planets. We also see a lot of interesting and unique aliens. Like if we take the pod racing scene alone, we instantly get some insight into this wonderful mind of George Lucas, because you can just tell that he and his team poured so much time and effort into coming up with all of these interesting creatures. A lot of them are ugly, but that's not a fault. Not every species in the whole universe can be fabulous. But yeah, I think it's neat. We get to see so many unique aliens and creatures, and even if at times not much is happening, you can always look in the background of the movie and you will find something that you haven't noticed before. I think this movie does a much better job of selling the world than what people give it credit for. I like it. However, then we have our first standout moment, and it's a bit of a reach, but it's Jar Jar being cute and eating things. Fuck it, I'll say it. I like Jar Jar. Jar Jar does not make this movie worse. He actually makes it better. In a film with a bunch of magical monks who can't show emotion, it's nice to have a breath of fresh air. Jar Jar brings light to this movie. Like, for example, how enjoyable would the underwater scene with the big monsters be if Jar Jar wasn't there? If it was only Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon just sitting there silently without a care in the world? I'll tell you, not very fun. Jar Jar honestly makes the story more engaging for the audience, because in some weird sense, we're him. We're confused and excited and just happy to be there, just like Jar Jar. Bold statement, but Jar Jar Binks is a good character. The hate that Ahmed Best received was so unjustified. And I'm not saying that if Jar Jar had been worse, then the hate would be alright. Fuck no. First of all, hating on an actor for a character they play in a movie to the point where they're contemplating suicide is a fucked up and inhumane thing to do. But on the other hand, Jar Jar isn't even that bad. I honestly believe that the Phantom Menace would have been very dull without Jar Jar. So suck on that. Jar Jar is a good character. Then we have the dinner table scene. I like this one because it's one of the few intimate and subtle scenes in this movie, and it's very refreshing. This scene has some fun interactions between the characters, most noteworthy being Qui-Gon and Anakin, but it also brings up good themes of slavery and the detrimental effect of apathy in the light of hope and change. It may be a stretch, but you can definitely see what George Lucas was going for. It's an important scene that shows us a lot of information about who Anakin is as a character and how, due to his unforgiving childhood, he hates seeing other people suffer when he can do something about it. But not just Anakin. This is a good scene for Qui-Gon. We get the best line in the movie, which is a silver moment for me, and it's when Anakin says that you can't kill a Jedi, to which Qui-Gon responds,
"I wish that were so."
This is so perfect. It's not just subtle, but it also brings some much needed vulnerability to the Jedi. So far, we've only seen them as emotionless warriors of peace who beat every obstacle that comes their way without any difficulty. But with this simple line, we learn probably the most important thing about the Jedi and even Qui-Gon himself, namely that life isn't just black and white. There's always a gray area. Now, if we're talking about the literal meaning of this sentence, then yes, it's that the Jedi aren't invincible. It's a lot more complicated than just that. But it's also important for Qui-Gon as a character. It shows his more gray viewpoint to life and to the Jedi, and it really fucking hurts when you think about how Qui-Gon Jinn would have been such a perfect mentor to Anakin. Anakin is a boy who has only ever learned to think in black and white because that's how slave life is. And this absolute way of thinking is what at the end of the trilogy leads to his downfall. When Qui-Gon dies, Anakin gets put with Obi-Wan, who, as we've seen multiple times in this movie, is also a more black and white thinker. He believes so heavily in the ways of the Jedi, which means he trains Anakin to strictly follow these rules, which isn't what Anakin needs. Anakin is a boy who acts on his emotions, and we see this on numerous occasions throughout this film, and he has clear emotional ties to his mom. Qui-Gon understood this. He knew that Anakin would benefit from his own way of thinking, rather than the orthodox and extreme views of the Jedi. Qui-Gon defies the Council on multiple occasions, and he would have taught Anakin how life isn't just as simple as the idea that killing a Jedi is impossible or that emotions lead to evil. No, Qui-Gon would have helped him understand and control his emotions rather than pretend that they don't exist, which is what the Jedi do after he dies. The Jedi Council was so afraid of what Anakin could become, and so they trapped him and forced him to bottle up his emotions until at last, when these emotions were truly tested, he didn't know how to control them. Qui-Gon's character foreshadows the fall of the Jedi, and his death later on really kicks you in the gut, because you just know that this is the catalyst to Anakin becoming Darth Vader. One can't help but think that if Qui-Gon hadn't died, Darth Vader may never have happened. That's not to discount Obi-Wan's guidance, but in the end, Anakin needed to be more than what Obi-Wan and the Jedi were allowing him to be. Yes, this tiny little sentence that Qui-Gon speaks holds all this nuance and storytelling within it, and even some grave foreshadowing towards his death. Qui-Gon is an interesting character, by far the best character in the movie, and this line is one of those rare golden lines from George Lucas. Say what you will about his dialogue, he has written some of the most iconic lines of all time. Overall, it's a brilliant moment. Then, right after this scene, we have the talk at night between Anakin and Qui-Gon, where Anakin looks up at the stars and says that he wants to see them all. This is honestly just a cute moment of bonding between these two, and we get to see the truly innocent mind of a child, and again, thanks to the originals, we already know what his fate is, so it really fucking hurts. I like this scene. But then we have the pod racing scene, which is not nearly as bad as I remembered it to be. It may not have much relevance to the overall story, but I admit, It's fun. It's our first dose of exhilarating and fast-paced action in this movie, and it honestly kept me watching, which I didn't think would happen. There are enough twists and turns in this sequel for us to be engaged, because despite the fact that we know Anakin won't die, or that we know that he'll win eventually, we still want to watch how he wins. In that sense, we're invested in the scene. I don't know. It's not a nuanced scene, but it does the job. I like it. Then we have Anakin saying goodbye to his mom. It was really important that George Lucas showed us the relationship between Anakin and his mom, and made us invested in it, because her death in the next movie is such a vital turning point for the story. Seeing this hopeful little child having to leave his mom and everything that he's ever known to go become a badass space ninja somehow touches you. Either it's because of the child inside of me, or it's because of my mother's instinct. But either way, I like this moment. Then we have Darth Maul's first attack, and this is just really funny to me. It's honestly great characterization for Maul, because he's chasing the Jedi and the Queen, that's his mission, but he sees a random kid running and he decides to fucking run him over. What the fuck, Maul? We know you're a bad guy, why'd you have to be a dick? Honestly, I'm not joking, I actually think this is great characterization. Darth Maul is chaotic, but also this quick burst of lightsaber combat gives us just enough satisfaction for now, but it also leaves us wanting so much more. It really does set the stage for the final battle, and I love it. Then we have the Jedi Council scenes, which are pretty cool. First of all, we get a look at Master Yoda, Mace Windu, and all the other Jedi Masters, and it must have been really fun to see back in 1999, for the people who had only ever heard rumors about the height of the Jedi Order in the originals, because this is the height of the Jedi, and it's badass. But these scenes also provide some great characterization for both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, because we see the differences in their morals, which in the end decides the fate of Anakin. I just like these scenes. Anakin is so cute and innocent, and he just misses his mom, and the Jedi Masters are having none of it.
You small-ass wimpy mama's boy.
They're enjoyable scenes. Then we have Padme's speech to the Gungans. She has a weird accent, and the words she speaks are a bit whatever, but I'm a sucker for inspirational speeches right before a big fight. I mean, I grew up with the Lord of the Rings. What'd you expect? But yeah, I remember liking the twist a lot that Padme was the real queen. It doesn't have much impact on the story, but it's a clever way of allowing Padme to go on an adventure with Qui-Gon without the complications of having to protect the queen. Smart move, Georgie. And then we've arrived at the best scene in the movie. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul, which is of course a silver moment. This is what fans were hoping for after waiting so many years for a new Star Wars. They just wanted more epicness, and this scene gave it to them. This fight is easily my favorite part of this movie, and one of my favorite fights in the franchise, and it deserves this praise with incredibly entertaining choreography and a score that since has become legendary. This is the music that us Star Wars geeks have been fighting with sticks to ever since our childhoods, because it's just so perfect. The only aspect of filmmaking that is always so strong throughout all the mainline Star Wars movies is the music, because John Williams is just so insanely talented. But yes, this fight is just awesome, mainly because of Darth Maul. I really wanted to look like Darth Maul when I was younger. I just thought he was so cool, and I was so happy to see him get expanded upon in the Clone Wars. But there's just so much to love in this fight scene, from the epic 2v1, to the difference between how Qui-Gon and Maul weighed out the lasers, to Qui-Gon's shocking death, to Obi-Wan's passionate fight with Maul, to Obi-Wan somersaulting over Maul and slicing him in half. It's just a brilliant fight scene that I always love watching. Easily a silver moment. And there we have it. That's the movie. Now yeah, this movie might be my least favorite Star Wars movie, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. The Phantom Menace has a special place in my heart for being one of the first Star Wars movies I ever watched. But beyond just my nostalgia, watching this movie from a more positive perspective has given me a new appreciation for it. There are a lot of things to enjoy about it. For example, the world it creates and the lore that's just interesting. There's also an epic lightsaber fight that everyone knows is just badass. There are even some interesting themes that this movie tries to juggle. Overall, it's not a bad movie. I actually think it has some good qualities. However, it naturally also has a lot of bad things, and as always I will briefly talk about them. but not too much. It's still a positive review. However, the big thing is the acting and the dialogue. Like I've talked about earlier in this video, there are moments where these aspects work fine and actually make for engaging scenes. However, for most of the movie, this just doesn't happen. The dialogue is clunky, awkward, and stale, and it sadly leads to some very unemotional scenes. For example, the whole first sequence on the Trade Federation ship is boring and really doesn't set the stage for the movie. And even the ending isn't that filled with emotions either. Qui-Gon's final words to Obi-Wan don't resonate with you because it isn't personal. It's just train Anakin. Nothing about their friendship or their bond, just their work. I mean, I like this a bit. I like that the most important thing to say in this moment is about Anakin because Qui-Gon knows how vital it is that he goes down the right path. But I'd also have liked something a bit more personal towards Obi-Wan before that, just one more sentence added. But oh well, it doesn't bother me too much, let's move on. Because the next big point of criticism I have is the visuals. Now I know I defended them in the beginning, but that was only for some of the time, definitely not all the time. There are moments in this movie that look absolutely horrible, even for its time, and sometimes it's really hard to not be affected by it. I just don't think that the visuals always look great. They do sometimes, but not always, and it kinda takes you out of the immersion. Last thing is the plot holes, which are honestly present in every Star Wars movie, but in this one they're just a bit more glaring. The main one of course being the super speed problem, because at the beginning of the film, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are seen zooming out of danger, but at the end Obi-Wan just runs normally towards Qui-Gon and Darth Maul. But if he had used his super speed, Qui-Gon probably wouldn't have died. So what was the point of super speed then? Why did you show us? Anyways, there are more flaws that I could find for this movie, but it really just isn't needed. Everyone knows that this movie isn't perfect, that it has flaws and doesn't always work as a movie, but when you look past those mistakes, then you find a movie that really does try to say some interesting things and often succeeds at it. It's a movie that I feel gets too much undeserved hate, even from me, and I think people have over-exaggerated their hate for it, because despite its flaws, the people who worked on it didn't deserve to get attacked for it. The people responsible for this are childish and have no fucking self-awareness. But listen, you can like or dislike this movie all you want. You just gotta respect people's opinions. This is not my favorite movie, but I like it. And this has been why The Phantom Menace is great. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Why It's Great videos. If you want to join my Discord for engaging conversations with other nerds, the link is down in the description and in the comments. But other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe and peace out.